We read a little bit from the indictment on the show yesterday, the Jack Smith, the special counsel's indictment of Trump. And essentially they're indicting him for free speech. They're indicting him because he pushed back against what happened in the 2020 election. It's the most egregious abuse of power in modern American history, if not in American history, against a politician simply for the politician's opinion. But what's funny is the actual people who have committed this crime, if this criminalization of questioning the outcome of an election is a crime, the people guiltiest of this aren't Trump. So what's interesting about this indictment of Trump, it's so egregious, it's hard to even escalate the tone because it's actually something we've never seen before in our country. This is something that you would see coming from Vladimir Putin. This is something that you would see Xi Jinping. Remember that video that we showed on the show maybe 3-4 months ago, where it was the Communist Congress, at least that's what they call it, in China, and Xi Jinping had his predecessor, the former president of China, escorted out of this Communist Congress. And it was a really chilling scene because clearly Xi Jinping had orchestrated this. Clearly the communists wanted to get rid of this other political actor. He was extremely surprised when security came over to him and started escorting him out, but he knew exactly what was happening. He knew that Xi Jinping was having him arrested because he posed a political threat, and he even touched Xi Jinping's arm on his way out as he was being escorted out by communist secret police. Like, really, are you kidding me? And Xi Jinping just kind of like moved his arm away, like, don't you dare touch me. And I thought, this is exactly what Joe Biden is doing to Donald Trump. Joe Biden is Xi Jinping, and he is having his communist secret police try to arrest Donald Trump because Donald Trump poses a threat to Joe Biden's chances at winning the White House again in 2024. You think we would never see this in our country? We're a free country, the land of the free, the home of the brave. We're not a dictatorship. We're not a country of authoritarianism. We don't live in a tyrannical place. And yet, do we? Is that what our country has become? Because what the left, what Jack Smith, the special counsel appointed by Merrick Garland, is accusing Trump of, what this indictment, what contains, is the accusation that Trump's quote-unquote big lie, this is what the special counsel is unilaterally determining to be the truth. They are the arbiters of truth. And what have we said a million times? Someone who is the arbiter of truth is nothing more than an authoritarian because they can redefine anything to suit their political agenda at any time, therefore having complete control over us. This is a perfect example of that. So the special counsel has determined that nothing whatsoever fishy happened in the 2020 election. I don't think a single person in this, listening to the show, watching this show today believes that. Of course we don't believe that. It's patently false. There was lots of fishy things that happened in 2020. We've gone over them a million times. But what's funny is that Jack Smith is accusing Trump's big lie of defrauding the United States. Essentially, he's criminalizing Trump's free speech. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. But the ironic part is that President Trump has factually identified problems with the 2020 presidential election. Meanwhile, you have all these Democrats throughout the years who contested the results of elections that were done fairly and freely, elections where there wasn't fraud, there wasn't electioneering, there wasn't any rigging or cheating. They have denied the result of elections when Republicans have won for literally decades. And yet Democrats have never been indicted, not even close, not even investigated. Their free speech has never been labeled as defrauding the United States. And listen to all the high-profile Democrats who've made this claim that elections have been stolen. Take a look at this.
Can you win with Russian interference, though?
That's the real
what I'm
thing.
scared about in 2020.
But rightly.
Because I think he's an illegitimate president that didn't really win. So how do you fight against that in 2020?
You are absolutely right.
He's an illegitimate president in my mind.
Would you be my vice presidential candidate? Folks, look, I absolutely agree.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Russia interfered with our election, attacked our democracy for the sole purpose of artificially placing someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They were successful.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president or elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
And there is no other way of saying it but be very blunt. Al Gore won the state of Florida in 2000, and we should never forget it.
Most Americans, or a great many Americans, don't have confidence that the election of 2000 was fair.
But I don't believe we lost. I believe we just failed to have all of the votes counted.
But I didn't lose. I got the votes. But we won't know exactly how many because of how they cheated. I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job. We were robbed of an election.
Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia.
Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election.
So that's Kamala Harris, Jimmy Carter, Hakeem Jeffries, Hillary Clinton, Jerry Nadler, John Lewis, Terry McAuliffe, Howard Dean, Donna Brazile, and Stacey Abrams. It's basically a who's who in Democrat politics, and they all have claimed that that different elections when Republicans won were stolen. But let's be very clear here. The most egregious election interference crime that has ever been committed in U.S. history was committed by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, who paid a foreign spy, Christopher Steele, to invent a story about President Trump colluding with Vladimir Putin and the Russians to rig the 2016 election. They then convinced the Department of Justice to pretend that this was true and use that as justification to get an order from a secret court to spy on President Trump's campaign and people in President Trump's orbit. They also use this to wage a disinformation campaign. And I know I don't even like the word disinformation. I reject it. But I also will be playing by the same rules that the Democrats set. If they say that it's disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, whatever they want to call it these days, if they want to say that it's disinformation to make that claim, they better be held to their own standards. And yet, to this day, who has been held accountable for the Russia collusion hoax that was intended as election interference? Nobody. Nobody involved with it. Nobody from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page to Bruce Orr at the Department of Justice to James Comey to James Clapper to any of these people, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, all of these people were in the know. They all knew about it. And they're all walking free. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a second. Hillary Clinton did have to reclassify in her campaign finance records when she claimed that she was paying a law firm for legal services, when she was actually paying a law firm to subcontract this foreign spy to write the Steele dossier. She had to reclassify that because it's not actually legal services. That's all. That's the only accountability that she ever faced. And yet President Trump is being told that because he questioned the outcome of the 2020 election, because there was evidence of electioneering that caused perhaps people who are valid voters to cast their votes in ways that are invalid and therefore shouldn't have been counted under the terms of our laws, they're going to put him in jail. And they will put him in jail. They absolutely will. Joe Biden said a year ago that he didn't want to run against President Trump. He said that he was going to defeat President Trump in 2024. How? By using the government to stop him. Take a look at this.
That G7 conversation was tied to your predecessor, who is about to launch another campaign. So how do you reassure them, if that is the reason for their questioning, that the former president will not return, or that his political movement, which is still very strong, will not once again take power in the United States?
Well, we just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by, if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
Now, I know that's a little hard to understand because mumbly is senile, but what he said is he didn't say we're going to defeat him. He didn't say we're going to offer the American people our vision, Trump's going to offer his vision, and people are going to decide, and I think people are going to choose us. He didn't say anything like that. What he said was a euphemism for saying we're going to use the power of the federal government to stop him. We're going to try to hog-tie him with frivolous legal issues and indictments so that he can't run.